Twitter. Palisades, I follow them on Twitter. Most of what they put up on Twitter and Facebook is a great example of normal marketing stuff. They try to be social, and then they'll make a comment like this morning. They said, hey, it's today or it's Friday, but then immediately it's here's the special food. And when you look at their stream, there's no engagement with their audience. There's no dialogue back and forth. So it's a pitch, exactly. Yep. There's also this kind of things. The recruiter that I work for, great person, does really good in her business, but doesn't understand social quite yet. On her Twitter stream and her Facebook, it's all the positions that she has. So it's, again, the pitch. It's not trying to engage and help. Coke, even Coke is that great. Today's lucky day for one. We won luck once, 5 Coke Zero. And if you look at their Twitter stream, that's the majority of what's there. So what is the better thing? Well, engagement speak, it's a two-way dialogue, right? So it's not just you putting stuff out. Now, you do have to put stuff out in order to engage people, and engagement takes time to build. That's one of the things to keep in mind if you're going to the social network. It does take some time, but it's encouraging the two-way dialogue. It's not just the pitch. It's audience focused. And part of what that means is it's benefit driven. So not just benefit driven in terms of why you should do business with me, but what are you getting out of reading my message? So if I'm putting something up and the only thing that they're going to get out of it is potentially doing business with me, then I'm failing at the engagement piece. The better thing would be doing things like posting content that your target audience would be interested in. So in my industry, it's posting or retweeting articles that people might want to know about changes in the internet marketing arena. It's responding to people that are in my target audience. So a great example, someone who's running a little bit late this morning, I saw her on Facebook. I met her last week, actually on Twitter, not Facebook. And she's local. She's in Milford, and I was just searching for local people to connect with, local business owners. And I saw her post a thing 2 days ago that said she was really frustrated with her website. And so, being an internet marketing firm, one of the things we do is build websites. But instead of saying, "Hey, let me rebuild your website for you," right? I said, "Hey, what's going on? Can I be of help?" And she and I dialogued back and forth. I think it was 7 or 8 different tweets back and forth. And she's planning to come this morning just because of that thing there. And so the way to think about the social piece is, am I dialoguing, am I building the relationships? Is the relationship building with your target audience? That will then lead to business. And the business that it leads to may not be this one person I just connected with buying from me directly, but now I've built that rapport in their mind, I've built that trust in their mind. Now I'm going to be somebody that they're going to refer, much like Kathy was telling you about me. And so that's really the goal. And if you can get one person, typically if you can get one person who really likes you, they're going to talk to at least 7 other people about you. Right, and if they kind of like what they hear, they might start talking to their friends. And so even the one person who may not be direct business for you can result in a lot of referral business for you, which is really some of the drive behind the social media. So it's also focused on engaging through questions and what's posted. And so what that means is you're willing to answer questions. How you doing? Are you here for the social networking coffee hour?
I am.
Come on in and join us.
How are you guys?
Good. I'm Josh.
Hi, Josh. Nice to meet you, Brian.
Good to meet you too.
Todd. Angelique.
My partner Brian.
I'm Brian.
So what we're talking about this morning is what engagement messaging is like within social networking. And so we just defined what it was, and this is the definition of really what it is. And so the engaging through questions and what's posted. How you doing, Betsy? Good. Here, you can have my chair. You missed it. I was just talking about you.
Oh, sweet.
There you go. So, engaging through questions and what's posted. So, watching what your target audience is posting and responding to it. Being willing to ask questions that you want answers to and keep pointing back if you're not getting the answers that you do want. It's just trying to get that conversation started with your audience somehow. Is one of the biggest things. And so we'll take a look at what that looks like on a couple of different areas. But some examples, Shane Gibson is the author or co-author of Guerrilla Social Media Marketing, great book by the way, goes through a lot of what social media marketing should be for small businesses. It doesn't do a lot in terms of telling you here's how to do it without wasting your time, but gives you the foundation. And then there's some other books that walk through how not to waste time. But just a great example right here. Social media tip: content is not work. Connection, rapport, and trust are today's currencies. This has no value proposition in it. This has no pitch or link. There's no action required. It's him trying to connect with his audience, which is primarily small business owners and social media marketers, trying to give them information that, hey, here's how to be more effective in social media marketing. So he's not trying to gain, he's trying to give. That's one of the big things with social media. Another one is Starbucks. I love looking at Starbucks and what they do with social media because they do it consistently well. One of the best large companies I've seen do it. They are constantly engaging their audience. Now in this one, this is kind of the great combination of the two. There is a pitch here, right? It's come and buy coffee from us. But what's going on is he is responding to somebody who asked him a question. And he's giving the answer, but in that answer is within itself an inherent pitch. And so you can combine the value proposition, you can combine the pitch, but really the focus is engaging that audience, answering questions, and if that means that there is a pitch in there, fine. But it's really focused on engaging the audience. This is Ashton Kutcher's. He's really good also. He has 6.5 million followers on Twitter. He also owns a large production company is really what it comes down to, but they have a social media marketing division out in California. They do a lot of things really well. But when you look at his Twitter stream, again, it's very good in terms of engagement. Probably because in a lot of movies, people just want to say, hey, guess what, I talked to Ashton Kutcher today, But he does it well. He responds to people. He posts things that his target audience is interested in. So like this here is a topic that his audience is really focused on. A lot of the acronym language is about human rights and things like that, different social developments that they can do. So that's the kind of thing that will work. Now, for you as a small business owner, are you going to talk about human trafficking? Probably not, right? Different audience. But the key is knowing what the information is that your audience wants and helping provide that to them, even without expecting anything back. That's one of the big mindsets of social media is to give and not expect that you're going to receive. But in the end, what happens is you build that relationship and you will receive. It just takes some time to develop. So let's look at what it actually looks like. So on Facebook, engaging, what that looks like is liking people's statuses, updates, pictures, that kind of thing. So it's watching what's going on with the people that you're engaged or connected to. It's responding to some of what they're putting out. It's not just putting up your marketing pitch and then walking away and hoping somebody responds to it. It's being actively engaged in the people that you're connected to. It's liking or sharing links to websites or stories that you're reading, specifically ones that your audience is going to be interested in. So if they're not going to be interested in it, even though you might like it, if it doesn't pertain to what your core business is and what your target audience's interests are, don't put it. But there are some times where it's not going to pertain, but it's going to be very, very relevant. So on Monday, I went to the Memorial Day parade, and I have a Flickr account for our business, and I took a bunch of pictures and put them up on our Flickr account. It's actually how I opened our Flickr account. The reason I did that was because it's something that my audience is very interested in, which is community involvement. And so even though it doesn't specifically have something to do with building websites or being involved in social media or anything internet marketing, it's something that's very, very relevant to my audience. And so therefore it is something that I want to comment on. It breaks it down from the I'm a company to I'm a person and I do people things, right? And that's part of what social looks like. Another thing is responding to people's posts. So not just liking them, but actually engaging in the conversation. And also asking polls or open-ended questions. And the polls are actually very, very easy to do now. You used to have to go through a separate third-party vendor to do polls. Now what you can do when you do your status updates, one of the options is to ask a question. And so you just type in your question, you give them the answer, and you post it. And what's great about doing it this way is your audience can then share that with their audience. So if they like your question for some reason, they want to see what their friends say, they can push it out, and all of a sudden, even if you may only be connected to 100 or 150, you can have exposure to 1,000 or 1,500 people at once. It's very, very quickly, very, very easily. So asking questions on Facebook to get answers. Good to engage, also great for market research. So if you're interested in developing something for your specific business and wonder, is this going to be pertinent to my audience? You can throw up a question here, and you can get a very quick responses to whether it's something you should pursue or not. What's that?
How do you get the data back?
The data, what happens? What's that?
Tally it in front of people?
Yes. Yep. And there's no privacy settings here that I'm aware of, and so when people respond to it, they can see here's who's responded what. So it's not at all an anonymous survey. If you want to do anonymous, you do still have to go through a different vendor for that, which there's plenty of free vendors to do that. But what happens on your wall, you'll see the survey question, and you'll see all the different responses that you provided as options, and then what the response rates are on those. So it's just right there. On Twitter, it looks a little bit different. There's retweeting. So people that you're following, you see a message that you like, and you retweet it. Every application that I've looked at has a very simple retweet function, and it puts it up. The thing with Twitter right now, you kind of got to be careful of. A lot of times when you do the automatic retweets, it doesn't look like it's coming from you. And so people still are kind of scratching their heads going, gosh, where am I seeing this person from? I don't know who they are. Because it looks like it's coming from that person. Down in like a little sub-note, it says who retweeted it. You can still do an old-fashioned retweet, which means it has RT at the front of the message, and then the person's name and the rest of the message, but it looks like it's actually coming from you. Either way is fine, it just depends on what your preference is. That's one of the really good ways of sharing information with regarding to anything.
Hey Josh,
Yes, ma'am.
for the sake of us that are not sure, what exactly is the difference between Twitter and Facebook? Or
Yep.
is there...
Absolutely. Facebook is a full-blown social networking site. Twitter is a microblogging site, which is still social network. But in Facebook, what happens is you can microblog, you can post pictures, you can basically host a blog, you can connect and really engage with people in a multitude of different ways. With Twitter, all you can do is micropost, which is 140 characters or less. And you can use that to then post to your Facebook or post to other social networks. But it's the difference between having a full-blown social network versus just a microblogging platform, which is what Twitter is.
So it's just really...
Microblog, very specific, yeah. And the difference there, Kathy, between a microblog and a normal blog is a normal blog is 300 to 500 words. A microblog is 140 characters, so much, much shorter. Okay, but microblogs make it easier to have that conversation back and forth with people. Okay. Sharing URLs on Twitter. If you're going to share URLs, you want to make sure that you're using a URL shortener like bit.ly. If you're using a tool like TweetDeck or Hootsuite, all of those have URL shorteners built into them. But if you're posting a link to, let's say, a CNN article, you won't get the full URL in it likely before you're at 140 characters. So the URL shorteners are really good to have. Ad replies are how you actually engage people. So when you see something that you want to engage, then you reply to it, and what it does is at the very front with the @ symbol and the person's screen name, and that signals that, hey, I'm talking to you. And it's also a way to mention somebody. So if I want to talk about Todd, what I would do is, in my tweet somewhere, is I would put @ in his URL or his Twitter screen name, and it would flag him that, hey, I'm talking about him or to him. It could be either way. But that's how you reply to people in a public format. On Twitter, you can reply in a private format if you need to. Typically, that's how you're going to share private information, like phone numbers and things like that, if you don't want it out there. But you want to try and keep as much public as possible, because potential customers are going to be looking at your history and seeing what's going on back and forth. If they don't see the engagement happening, the chances of them connecting with you and trying to engage with you are a lot smaller than if they see more of it. Just be cautious of what the public looks like.